There we go. It's recording. Chip, how are you?
I'm good, yeah.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
It's been great listening back to this album, isn't it? And it's quite a surprise.
Yeah, I'm blown away, to be honest.
Yeah?
It's been quite a journey.
Did you have any idea? I guess none of us had any idea of what it was going to turn out, right? We came together, what was it, 2 years ago or 18 months ago? Was it 18 months ago?
Well, that's a blur.
It was after Japan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because we formed the idea, sat in the back of a tour bus driving up the side of Mount Fuji.
To get together, to do some classic soul jazz, sort of jazz, dance floor, funky, something a bit, maybe harking back to where you started off career-wise.
Soul jazz stuff, and working with the new master sounds where you did as well, and people like that, and sort of, do that sort of soul jazz, But obviously, with a little bit of a twist on it. We did speak a lot about sort of Yusuf Lateef at the time, which, and his more kind of Atlantic sort of stuff, which is kind of quirky funk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which I think appeals to you and me a little bit more than...
Aye, the quirkier side of it, the better. So I remember I was sat in my allotment and we were sort of messaging across because we'd kind of vaguely pinpointed a time, hadn't we?
Just to point out, I wasn't sat in my allotment at the same time.
No. I just remember the message though, because I think I can't remember what you were coming over for, but I'd kind of like loosely got a bunch of guys together to come and record. And I think I told them all 5 days. And then you, for some reason, I'd maybe only managed to get like 3 days off or something. And I was like, I've got them for 5. And you're like, all right, give me a second. And you went back and I think you changed your flights or something or opened that time. Because I'd been learning that if I book 5 days out, I can usually get either one absolutely amazing album or 2 albums. Yeah. And it turns out in this session, this Lewis Express session, we ended up getting 2 albums worth of stuff, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea you had such Machiavellian ideas about the whole week. I was here just on the, that's how long it takes, as long as it takes. And because we were writing from the bottom up, I did naturally assume it would take longer because we would have to sort of organise the music on the spot, which we're quite adept at. That's not an issue. But, to do that day in, day out is tiring. And to not repeat yourself is virtually impossible.
Yeah, that was
in
hard.
A week. So I didn't really think. I wasn't thinking like that personally. I mean, you've got, this is your studio, and you do a lot of this sort of thing more than I do. So you probably had a better sense of what you can achieve in the time frame that you had. But
I don't know what I was expecting because they've definitely formed 2 different albums, didn't they? It's like, I think you said it even during the sessions as well. There was a handful of material, luckily equated to exactly 1 album's worth, which was more of the soul jazz or the quirkier side of soul jazz. Yeah. And then there was another album of stuff which was a bit more thoughtful, maybe?
Way more spiritual, I think. That kind of Yusuf Lateef thing was a good reference point, I think, because it strayed off into the more elegant side, the spiritual jazz side of Yusuf Lateef stuff. We've still got that sort of soulfulness to it, and the big bass lines, and the kind of and the depth of kind of Axelrod and people like that, and that sort of slightly profound nature of the melodies, and the kind of, but yeah, something else. It was darker, and it was more longer sounding, if you know what I mean. Not sort of singly sounding.
Yeah, not instantaneous.
Like...
Is that right way of putting it?
Yeah.
And they just sat. So we got the Lewis Express album mixed, done, and out. That was fantastic. The other stuff just kind of sat on the reels. And I didn't know quite what to... No, it wasn't so much I didn't know what to do with them. I just wasn't kind of quite ready to look at it yet.
Well, you do a lot of albums in a row, and that's the other thing for you. It's time and energy, isn't it, to visualise and conceptualise what we do with everything, and because it wasn't something you'd set out to do, you didn't naturally have a, okay, I'm just doing that with this one, because everything else you do, you kind of start out with, okay, this is this project, or that's that project, which is kind of how we started out, but then you end up with a whole lot more. But because of the nature of the turnover of the studio and the way you work, I think you just needed a bit of time to figure out, is this like a part 2 of the Lewis thing, or is it a different project? Is it a new project? And you had to sort of figure out what it was.
Well, I ended up I actually had planned to do a dub album of the Flying Hats, the reggae project that we did.
Yeah. And
that didn't quite happen, just for organisation and stuff like that. So I was kind of like, I need a record. I need a record to go into research.
Yeah.
So I dug out the reels and just started having a go. Now, was it surprising hearing, like, I can't remember what I sent you first, because I realised that, because of the way we discussed some of these pieces, even in the holding names, do you know what I mean? This one's a bit like
working titles.
The Axl Roddy one, the Quincy Jonesy type one. What was the first thing that I sent you? Can you remember?
I think it was the Axl Roddy one, as you beautifully put it.
Yeah.
The first track on the album, I think, because that was always the one that clearly didn't fit with
absolutely true.
But it was the one, I think, that we all remembered mostly from the session. It was the one that stood out as being like a really favourite of everybody, and one that you couldn't just let go.
Leave.
You shouldn't leave. It had to be
like
something, had to go somewhere. So I remember you sending me that one, and then and then it's just the whole recording session just fired up again in our heads.
Yeah.
And it just became this endless sort of messages back and forwards about, well, what about this track? What should we do? And then we started sort of thinking, well, should we be doing overdubs? Should we make it sound different to the Lewis thing? Now that we can see it's a different project and you've got time to think about it, it was kind of, okay, so let's open it out. Let's not be worried about where we're going with it, but let's try and give it a flavour. Now that we've got the amazing recording and the bed of the songs and all the energy and the fire that we needed, let's see what we can do with it in terms of arrangement, in terms of instrumentation, in terms of having some fun with it, and what ideas we might have on that front.
I think the thing that you said there was that this was not problematic bit, was potential. It's kind of like you could hear in two of the tracks, you're like, I can hear the potential of what this could be. And sometimes that's a bit of a monkey on your back as well, because you're a bit of afraid to kind of like, all right, where do I start with this? Because I know...
Well, the potential is to go down a road towards, we sort of people like Michel Legrand or David Axelrod, people like that. That's hard work. And that's arrangements, and that's a whole other level of musical input and arranging and musicality. That's a massive commitment, and it's very hard for a reason. It's very hard to get into that zone with those people and that sound, because it's a big sound.
Yeah,
and it's
scary. Imagine it. I can imagine it. I can kind of see like, oh, this could be, but I can't. I don't have the skills to sit and, like you're saying, to do those kind of orchestration. But another thing, before I get onto that, another thing that you did that was really helpful is you kind of like, I think you said to me on a phone call or a text message, you kind of split the album into two. Yeah. You kind of said, these songs... We did that
in the week we did the recording. After every night... you would send me the recordings we'd done that day. Yeah. And knowing I was probably the only one of everybody that would actually listen to it. And the next morning we would come in early, ahead of everybody else, you and me, and start sort of looking at what we'd done, also what we could do. And I think you and me both immediately, on the first day, said, there's two things going on here. So I think by the end of the second day, it was quite clear that there were... Because we've made a lot of records, you could immediately group things into pockets of sound.
But even on that second album, you split it into... on a phone call, you said to me, these ones are horn big band arrangement-y type
Yes.
ones. And these ones are the more spiritual ones.
Yes, yeah.
And that was really helpful because all of a sudden my head just kind of went like that.
Yeah.
And I knew kind of like the tools.
Well, we were looking for different sounds as well, and we started doing. You were talking about using oboes and bassoons and stuff like that, and immediately sent you some Hubert Law stuff that
Yeah, I'd never heard that one. That was really good.
That was kind of groove based. That
Yeah.
has this sort of quirky classical instrumentation that was immediately like, and again, it's those reference points that experience, isn't it? If you're only listening, years of listening to music, of remembering, and you're very, very good at this, of kind of going, oh yeah, that sounds a bit like, hold on a sec, and you get a reference track up, and it's like, oh yeah, that's that sound. It's like, okay, and so that helps you conceptualize sound.
Even when John played those first chords of that Axelrod one, because that was a moment in the studio. John was just warming up. It's like dong 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 dong,
yeah.
and I was like, "That we're doing that.
Yeah.
Let's do that." Yeah. And we both knew, especially with that track. You're like, that just sounds like that could sound so much like a David Axel, like just in that whole ballpark.
Yeah.
And that kind of scared me a bit. Because I'm kind of like, I want to do that kind of music, but it's such a
Many have failed. I mean, he's such a massive influence, isn't he, with the sample side of it all, and just the sound of his arrangements, and and we both like that sound, like Johnny Harris and Axelrod and all this sort of big arrangers. But we're also very aware, Herbolzheimer that we were talking about before. But we're also very aware that is a thing. These are massively difficult things to accomplish. And we could have taken what was effectively a really good song, and not got it to where we wanted to get to, which would have been worse. Would have failed a good piece of music.
And then in came my friend Steve Parry.
Yeah, well, there you are. I mean,
amazing, extraordinary arranger. So I was telling you briefly when you arrived. We tried not to chat too much, but we did a bit. But Steve is an old friend of mine. He's done stuff on the label before. Anything that you hear is a kind of like big band, kind of horn arrangement type thing. That's more of the, I don't know how you describe it, not so much the Work Money Death kind of Sun Ra-y horn arrangement thing. So that's Rich who's come in and done that. Mm-hmm. But the more kind of like classic big bands, that's Steve.
Right.
And Steve has just been doing arrangements. I think he told me the first arrangement he did was when he was 10, I think. Who does arranging at 10?
Oh, I was 9, of course, when I started.
And for him, he just blows my mind. He blows my mind because for him, it's just like chatting. I've done it with him in the studio where I've just like sang him a little thing. It's like, or maybe described something. He's like, oh, wait a minute. Write something out, okay, right. Okay, let's go into the room. And he plays almost every instrument as well, which is really handy. But like a lot of the time we'll just do like trumpets and trombones, and he play a bit of French horn as well. And you're just like, what? This guy is just like, he just oozes.
But also for you, it's a big piece of a jigsaw for you, running a studio and running so many projects and trying to finish projects and trying to be creative, trying to keep the music up front so that your ideas keep flowing and that you can achieve things you can hear.
Yeah.
But not having all the hours in the day for doing these things or necessary the skills to get where you want to get to.
Yeah. So
he does strike me as a massively important piece of the ATA jigsaw right now.
And just I'm not going to say that he transformed any of these tunes because they were all great as they were. He just elevated them up that notch, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I think about how much money, went into records in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you had this team of people, you had your arranger, you had your producer, you had the studio, you had all the tape, all the session guys, the art department. It's just a huge machine, wasn't it? And sometimes, you know, and you probably think the same thing. You've got sounds in your ears and your mind, you know, that you've lived with for an incredibly long time, but they're from a different era. And how difficult it is to kind of marry up what's in your mind and what's actually just achievable on today's budgets.
Yes.
You know, and even studios as well, because you can get someone like Steve who can play every single instrument, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to sound like 20 people in Capitol Studios, or something like that, is it? You know, that's again another set of skills.
There's a lot goes into there's a lot of detail that goes into these sounds. Like we said, that's why it was scary, I think, is that kind of, you know, knowing that they all did it with full orchestras and arrangers and, you know, teams of people to get that sound, and you're thinking, well, here I am sat in Leeds,
scratching my head, just going, like, well, I know I want the horns to go da, right, but what else do I do? But so Steve penned that arrangement in, I don't know, I think I sent it to him one evening, and he just like immediately just went, oh, well, maybe I'll just do something a bit like this. And I think within about an hour or two in my inbox was 4 trombone parts, a tuba part, bass clarinet, and some French horns. Yeah,
brilliant.
You know, there they are on a PDF.
Shopping list of.
And what I really like about Steve as well is when, and this used to be the same with my mate Chris, you know, the guitar player. And this is not great. This isn't good business. Do you know what I mean? You could be better organised with this. But I always knew with Chris, I can just phone him, you know, like, it's a Monday and I've got something that I want done. And he was like, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. You know, it was always a bit like that. I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah. Steve's over in Liverpool. He's kind of a bit the same as well. He's like, oh, not doing anything this week. Shall I come over tomorrow?
Yeah.
Packs his car full of some trombones, a tuba, some French horns, a bass clarinet. Yeah. You know, and
but you need that. You need a team around you, people that believe in what you do, because what you do is so based on energy and hard work and a concept, and often not much money. Do you know what I mean? At all. Don't go there
at all.
But it is based on a belief that what we're doing is important.
Yeah.
And trying to make the music as best as we can is important.
Yeah.
And not everybody thinks like that. And not everybody naturally musically reacts the way you want them to react. Sometimes you'd send different people different things. They'd send back something that doesn't fit with how you hear it.
And again, that's what's so good about Steve is just a shared interest of stylistically, and you know, so you don't have to say too much. Yeah. He's like, no, I've got you.
But also the openness, you could say to him, okay, send him a bunch of reference tracks saying, you know, and he'll go, yeah, great, you know. And it's that kind of it's just people that you're immediately about the music.
Yeah.
And a lot and a lot of times it's very difficult to find great musicians and great people who are so open still. Sometimes I think there's a lot of kind of issues with ego or money or the get right in the way of the conversation about the music and putting the music up front and high up in the mix in terms of importance. Is like you want someone to listen to what you've done and go, oh wow, yeah, it is really important. I'll come over tomorrow.
Yeah,
because you feed off that energy because you're sat here every day trying to get it done, and you're doing a million jobs at once, and it is really hard for you to get from A to B. And let's face it, everybody knows that it's not about starting projects; it's about finishing them.
Yeah,
and that you learn quite early on.
Yeah, and
having that focus and that drive is it separates us all from those who will do and those who don't.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. Do you know what I mean? And it's nothing more than just do you have what it takes? Do you want it that much?
Yeah.
And then, you know, once you've got that drive, you need people around you that feed that rather than take it away.
Yeah.
And you know, you've got that. I think you've got that here with a really great team of people on every level. Everybody believes in the project, as it were, without sounding cheesy.
Yeah, you know? His enthusiasm again is in the same way again that Chris's enthusiasm was. You know, it just keeps you going.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's when he came round to do the horns, he didn't do all the horns. He just managed to do, I think, 2 of them, and then he was busy, and we got somebody else to do them. But just a really enjoyable day that you come out feeling energized from.
Yes.
Especially when you start off with a track that you think would sound amazing with some Axelrod type arrangement. Then by the end of the day, you have a track with an Axelrod type arrangement that you're like, yes.
We did it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what did you think when you heard that with those horns?
I literally was like jaw-droppingly good. I mean, I was like, okay, this is like, I'm really proud of this already. And it was an amazing piece of music. And it was just that feeling of like, yeah, this piece of music's getting what it deserves, which is the growth and the development of something that's going to live for a long time. It's like, I'm super proud of it,
Yeah.
And that feeling of like, that sort of almost childlike feeling of wanting to play it to everybody straight away. Like, look what we did, wow, listen to what we did, and it's hard to get that feeling when you spend a lot of time making music.
Yes.
And I think you and me have written and recorded and made a lot of records, and it's hard to keep that kind of childlike reaction to stuff. And it was definitely one of those moments of like, okay, that first album, the Lewis album, was like really good, and we were so proud of it.
Yeah.
And then we started digging around in this one. It's like, oh my God, this is just, and we're doing it again within, that was such a week of recording.
Yeah, it was a great week of recording.
And already it takes, the second album did take more in terms of it needed post-production stuff, overdubs and stuff more than the first one. The first one was very complete. The other tracks that went on that first album were almost entirely formed on the day.
Yeah,
we did a few overdubs, and I did a few kind of extra flute lines and stuff like that. But it was like, it was there. We had that sound straight away. We knew that. But the other ones were like, okay, so where are we going with it? And then when it started to live and breathe a little bit more, it was just this kind of like, oh my, this is really exciting.
Yeah. And the second track that Steve worked on that day, do you know what? I'm just going to admit it. I can't remember the names that I've given stuff.
Working titles.
Yeah.
Strike back.
Yeah, it really, really is, isn't it? What have we called that one? I'm going to look at my phone. I'm not going to. The one that we were calling Quincy Jones, the Quincy tune. No, it wasn't that. What did I call it? The Balaphon tune. So there was a tune that we did in the session, the week-long session, that was very clearly not a Loose Express tune whatsoever, because Sam decided to not play drums and to play the Balaphon instead, which was fucking wonderful and brilliant decision, because it sounds amazing. But yeah, it was clearly like, this is definitely not a Loose Express tune.
Yeah, no, because it wasn't soul jazz at all. It was a very spiritual.
Yeah.
Much deeper thing going on, wasn't there? Much more of that spiritual jazz side, that kind of percussive, exploratory sort of sound,
Yeah. And wait a minute, John didn't play piano on it either. So there you go. There's another reason it didn't sound like Loose Express. He just played tambourine.
Right.
So it was just bass, Balaphon. The congas were beautiful. And we kind of just, came up with a head and arrangement pretty quickly. And again, that one reminded me. The first one reminded me of like of the David Axelrod kind of stuff, and this tune reminded me of like early 70s Quincy Jones, Gula Matari, which is the one that the sort of I gave you recently. But it really reminded me of that era, and I was like, okay, then surely what's going to work on this track, is something
Quincy horns.
And that one in a way, Steve said a really interesting thing about arranging to me, because at the same time as Steve looking at the arrangements, I brought in that bassoon player. It is bassoon, isn't it? Yeah, it's bassoon. God, where's my brain at today? Because again, I could hear that bassoon kind of like semi-classical kind of sounding instrument. And he did an amazing he was really good. And he came in and we kind of discussed where I wanted him to play, like wanting to shadow bits of you and then join in.
Yeah, whether to play the line or play in between the line, which we started to do.
And all that
so
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then he just played some really nice improvised parts. I was not shocked, but I wasn't expecting it. And it turned out he's a really good improviser.
Yeah.
And he played like really complementary to what you were doing.
Yeah.
Now, Steve didn't know this, and he went ahead and did an arrangement. The two things kind of happened at once. And unbelievably, none of it clashed whatsoever. And one of the things like Steve was saying about arrangement, because I was saying to him, because I'm fascinated by arranging, I would love to be an arranger. I would love to, because I can see that my mind works in that way.
Your inner Quincy.
My inner Quincy. And so I was saying to Steve, it's like, oh man, I really want to learn, the minute he gave me all this stuff, I was like, I want to look at the charts. I want to work out what he's done, And he was saying to him, arranging is looking for opposites and then work on your voicings.
Oh,
he says that's all it is.
Looking for opposites.
Such a good point, isn't it? Looking for opposites and your voicings.
But he's right in the sense that when you played me, you played with the tracks. It's the kind of not getting something you weren't expecting. And that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Especially if it was just like block chords or sort of harmony, but it's like, okay, but it was like it is like, oh wow, where did that come from?
Like those horn stabs on that tune, the really angular ones. It's like
they're
what?
Dark.
I would have never like that one really, like again, wonderful surprise. I was like, I wouldn't have chosen to do that. Yeah. But then when he did it, I was like, whoa, that really makes sense. Yeah. Because it's tying in that kind of 70s Quincy Jones kind of, like he would probably refer to it as somebody else, like where he's got those sort of voicings or whatever. But to me, I was like, oh yeah, Ironside. Sounds a bit like Ironside.
Yeah.
And then he put the French horn parts on it as well. And everything just knitted in beautifully. But yeah, the really surprising bits are those horn stabs and the French horn stabs that come in it as well. And Steve, again, he was just like, oh, let me know if that works. He's like, I just wanted to try it. I just kind of thought, and
jaw-droppingly good.
Yeah, he put in I think it's a semitone, two French horns playing a semitone.
Yeah.
With the trombone's answers. Unbelievable. I was just like, wow, this is...
I remember listening to it when you sent it to me, and I remember I was sat in a shopping mall in Doha having a cup of coffee, and I saw this, so I had a little listen.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I was like, so showing my wife like that. Have you listen to this? It's like, wow, it's like wonderful. Like, how do we get to this beautiful point?
How do we get to that
absolutely
point?
Brilliant,
And it was those two things that then just informed the rest of the album. And again, what you said, because the next person that we kind of brought in as well was Alice Roberts on harp.
Yes.
Who I just think is like phenomenal musician.
Yeah.
It's like I was telling her, and I think I was telling Steve this as well because I knew he'd really appreciate this. She reminded me of a big band drummer. She's like the spiritual jazz version of a big band drummer. You know how like...
I'm sure she'd love to hear you say that.
Well, you know how like a big band drumming, they're always setting up phrases, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's always like before.
Here we go, yeah.
And she just knew exactly where to, like, she'd listen to a track and then the way she would sort of preempt whatever was happening, because whatever she interjected always happened before.
Yeah.
And I was
Smart.
like, fuck, that is really, you are really... Yeah. She read the tracks really well.
Well, she's very... I've worked with her in Matthew Halsall's band.
Yeah.
So she's very experienced and she's very smart.
Yeah.
She knows the music really well. Again, you don't have to have conversations with
some
of these
absolutely
people.
not.
Like, they've internalised the sound and off they go.
Most of the things... I don't think it's true. I don't know if it's true of all of them, but a lot of these tracks, it was the first take. And with Alice, actually, like, because she did the Work Money Death stuff as well, most of it's just first takes. Because she'll have a listen, and then we have a chat. I think she must do prep beforehand, because she doesn't really sound like she knows what she's doing immediately. But you'll have a bit of a chat and say, maybe a bit like this. You learn a little bit about harp, when you're asking her, oh, what's that? Or is it that single things or double things and stuff like that. Anyway, like the track that we're just talking about, first take, just done.
Yeah.
Those other tracks as well, the ones which are a bit more, less horns on them, bit of bassoon, some double flutes and things. Again, she just, one take, bit of a chat, one take, and it's just like, wow. And she really knitted a lot of that not that it needed knitting, but it really informed
it's
the
the
feel and the
atmosphere it
sound.
creates, isn't it? And I think that was something I said to you early on, as I really thought I could hear harp on it.
Yes.
Especially on the more spiritual, not as much the big band,
Yeah.
but the more spiritual side of this thing. It's such an elegant sound.
Yeah.
And it's such an important texture. I think that I could immediately. I thought, oh yeah, if we can get some harp on this, it'll make it all pop. Again,
Yeah.
it's just elevating things, isn't it? And
it really did.
Yeah.
It really did. I was so glad that I asked her to come and do it, because it really made a very big difference to those tracks. You know, the way she'd kind of, the way she'd converse, you know, with John, his piano playing and the little lyrical things that he would do. She'd provide answers to them, you know, or set up questions, you know, and stuff, which made some of those spatial moments just like a really beautiful picture. You know, it really
it's
brought
the
everything
space
together.
and the reflection that it brings that sound, doesn't it? Harp always makes you kind of
Yeah.
think, doesn't it? And it just floats, doesn't it? It floats through the emptiness sometimes of a track and just stops you worrying about it being there. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can tread water, can't you?
Yeah,
You know, you can just float for a little bit.
It just sort of transcend, doesn't it? Sound-wise, it always makes you go, oh,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of...
And so I was really happy with how everything was coming together. It seemed to be coming together pretty quickly, you know, like mix-wise and overdub-wise. And then it didn't. Then it took forever. Like, I got it to a certain point, and then I think, you know, the more you...
That's got to be normal, though, isn't it? Because it'd been such an organic, fast-moving process when we recorded it, and then when you started the overdubs, you had this one sort of honeymoon period of it all just flowing.
Really,
but I guess in a
beautiful.
way, you've got to expect that can't. At some point, you have to dig in a little bit to get things across the line.
Yeah. I did all the mixes, because you were like, wow, that's fucking quick. Do you know what I mean? I got them all done, went to the mastering engineer, played the mixes, and for the first time in a long time, just kind of went, oh, they're all shite. And I'm not usually that kind of person. Do you know what I mean? I'm not I don't get caught into this like sort of
Over-analysis.
loophole of over-analysis.
Yeah.
And sometimes people think that may be what I'm doing. But it's just shave it. You know what I mean? It's just like you
Well, it's
find...
that producer's sense of the overall sense of the record. And sometimes it takes you to be in that position of, okay, we're mastering it, where when you listen to things with somebody else there, sometimes it sounds different.
Yeah.
Do you know that feeling?
And, well, what was really strange about this, because again, you know, it was exactly the same session as the Lewis Express, but it's mixed differently, and it's only subtle. But even me and the mastering engineer who does all of the ATA stuff, rare tone mastering, we were sat there going, it sounds really different. It sounds really different. There's something that I've done. And I think it's like, you know, I'm learning and all this stuff. I'm learning as a mix engineer. Do you know what I mean? It's not what... It is what I do for a living, but it's not what I do for a living. Do you know what I mean? It's like I've learned to do it because of this fucking label.
And it's always the sort of process that every time you start a new album, it feels like you're starting from zero.
Yeah, exactly. You find
Everything
this new problem to contend with, or this new kind of sound.
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely fluid process, and it's all based on kind of, you know, what you know, but also how you're feeling in the moment sometimes, you know.
So basically, I think 5 of the 7 tracks, I was just like, or maybe even 6. Like, I think only 1 track survived, if you know what I mean.
Right, yeah.
And the others, I just went, oh, fuck, I've got to go and do them all again. Now, that doesn't mean do them all. You know, I've got notes and, you know, I can reset. In fact, look, it's still on here. Alto flute, harp, percussion, kalimba, flute, piano. Well, you know which track this is because it's the last one. It's the dreaded track that I snapped. So anyway, I went back to mix everything. And flutes are hard to mix. One thing I've realised about flutes, and I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but it seems kind of obvious, but you need a lot of space for a flute. It should feel like it's flying around, like a butterfly. You know what I mean? Like that's the only analogy I can think of. And because I have a smaller ceiling, it's usually quite a compromise. You know, you're trying to get this feeling of air.
Yeah,
But-
like you've recorded it in a church hall or something.
Yeah, but because of that,
we've got a low roof. Yeah,
that can become really pointed
too
to
direct,
your ear
yeah.
and things, and it's so there was a lot of that to manage. But I think what I managed to do is I managed to give the album a kind of sense of space that I haven't managed before, especially in like John's piano solos. Like, I don't know if you noticed that, but some of John's beautiful. Like we were talking about before, like I think there's at least 2 really beautiful piano solos in this album that I'm
Yeah.
just like, fuck, that is.
Yeah.
But somehow, I kind of know how, but do you know what I mean? I hadn't done it this well before. I was like, oh, I've made it sound like it's in a church.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not in a garage.
Yeah.
And it just has this.
But it draws you in, I think, if you get that sense of space, and every note sounds more interesting, I think, and more
Yeah.
kind of reflective again, isn't it? It's like the
Yeah.
harp or whatever, or the flute. These instruments, if you get them right, really, especially on an open sounding track,
Yeah.
each note really counts then, and it's...
And he has a lot of beautiful intention, doesn't he? He puts a lot of soul even
and dynamism,
into
he's
one note. It's incredibly sort of thoughtful. So then ensued like, I think almost, I hate to say it, almost a month maybe of like remixing it, getting these tracks and you do go into that space where you're just like, I don't think the camera will see this, but you're just kind of like, maybe the flute should be there.
It's like a nano
No,
slide up or nano slide down.
I can hear the difference. No, it should be,
the
sort
madness.
of thing. And I got into a bit of that. And then I came back from Christmas and I was kind of like, okay, we got the mastering booked in again. Because we had a few problems with tape machines at the mastering studio as well, which kind of caused a few problems. And then we had a major problem here.
The classic.
And you only sort of just found out about this in you were looking at it thinking, that's an interesting video.
Well,
Then you realised it was one of our tracks.
I was watching it thinking, oh, that's nice. Yeah, Neil's to one of his little monologues and and this is what we do in ATA, and it was all about the tape machine. I thought I was really snapped track, tape on the track, and I was thinking, oh gosh. And he was, like you being you how to you'd spoken to people about it and done some research. And blah, blah. I was thinking, God, this is super interesting. How how he's managed all this patience with stuff, and then about like 2 videos later, he sort of casually mentioned it was flute on the track, and my jaw dropped and my heart sank. I was like, oh no, please don't let that. And this kind of gentle fascination became panic of like, oh my God, that's something that's going to be lost forever,
That was the worry. So yeah, I snapped the 2-inch tape. Basically, my tape machine has problems. My studio's usually not this tidy. I was distracted, a bit kind of brain dead from mixing, and I was jabbing the remote control to stop it, and it wasn't working. And I did something because, do you know what? I can't remember what I did, but there's all these many ways that you shouldn't do that gets it out of rewind or fast forward.
Yeah.
But I basically just got frustrated, jabbed a few too many fucking buttons, and the real one motor went one way, and then it just went snap, it's like a crack. I was just like, oh, fuck,
Deathly sound.
I was just like, oh Christ. And this is not the first time this has happened.
Right.
See that piece of tape on top of the speaker?
Yeah.
That's from the Last Sorcerers album.
Do you keep it there to remind yourself?
Yeah, but it happened in a really convenient moment.
Right.
So I was kind of like, okay.
No flutes playing at that point.
No, it wasn't. And I thought to myself, first of all, yeah, my heart completely sank. Because I'm just like, I've got no backup. It's such a beautiful tune. I'm kind of like, there's no way we're recreating that. There's no way. And straight away, I had solutions. If I couldn't tape it back together, the tape was mangled. It was mangled, right? And it split across like that.
Yeah.
I've edited master tapes before. So I was like, just mix it, stick it back together, mix it, and then if it's not working, just cut a section out the master tape. It'll be fine, And if worst comes to the worst, we'll do it digitally, at the mastering stage, which I don't want to do, but fine. So what I did, you might have seen it on the video, I'd heard that back in the 60s, a famous engineer, when a similar thing happened to a young kid. Kind of shows you where I'm at in this story. I'm the young kid with no experience. Mangled the tape. He just got an ironing board out and a tea towel and said, don't worry about it. Iron on a low setting, off we go. Flatten it out.
Get an edge.
So, and this is where I have to state this properly, because Michaela was like, you need to tell people that I came up with this idea. And she's right, I do. So I went back to the house. I phoned her and like, I'm not going to be home for tea. I was like, tell Rudy, can you guys cope on your own? I'm not coming home to cook tea. This has happened. And very understandingly, she was like, don't worry about it. Just do what you got to do. I went home and I said, I'm coming home to get an iron and the ironing board or whatever, And she was like, I'm going to take a tea towel. And she was like, use parchment paper, baking paper.
Yeah.
And she was spot on, because you could see the tape through it,
Smart.
Yeah, and the tape had crumpled in because it stretched and snapped. That was the problem.
Yeah.
It had gone like that.
Up, yeah.
So I did a practice run, but basically got an iron out, got the tape underneath and ironed it flat. Right?
And you know what? One day in the future, if someone's going to listen to this, and they're going to find this information, they're going to find that baking paper, and they're going to do the same thing.
Exactly. And I can't remember who told me the Keith Grant story. It's Olympic Studios. It was quite a famous. The kid was like, my job's gone.
Yeah.
But luckily Keith Grant was a really good person. That was never like, you're out of here. It's like, mistakes happen. So I flattened it out, and then I got out my sticky tape. Right, put it all together, and I knew where the gap was, and I put it on, and I was like, what's that? What? Past the gap. It passed the split, and I was like, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I did not hear that.
Saying, can you hear? Can you? And I was literally.
Yeah, you were like
headphones on, phone like that,
And
I'd realised at this point the enormity of the situation.
And I honestly couldn't believe. Now I was kind of like, I was so knackered by that point. I think what kept me calm was actually doing the Instagram stories, because I was like, do you know what? The very least I'm going to get out of this is some good Instagram fodder. Yeah,
being into.
I gained 1,000 followers from that video. It's been watched 195,000 times.
There you are. And it's good knowledge, isn't it?
It's good knowledge. I was knackered, and I was just like, right, I'm going home to bed. It's worked. I'll do the mix tomorrow. And I came back in the next day, and I switched the tape machine on. This is how the track has got its name, because I put this in a video. Because switch the tape machine on, and there's a light on the tape machine that shines across the tape. I switched the tape machine on, and the tape had stopped the night before, right on the break.
Wow.
Because I was like, I've got it so close together. Anyway, I switched the tape machine on, and I saw a light shine.
Right through the split.
And it's just like, you can see the gap all the way through. And I'm like, oh, man. Because one of my mates pointed out, he says, there's so much stress on that tape. It's like, it's going to pull that gap apart.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, I hadn't thought of that. Because I put the tiniest slither of tape to hold it together, because of that tape machine, the way it works, if you put too much tape on it, you won't get like that flat contact against the head. So I just thought, I'm going to put the tiniest bit of tape to hold it together. And it's like,
it's like holding on.
And I'm just like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So heart kind of sank a little bit again, and I put it on, and I was like, you still can't hear it. You still can't hear the gap. Now, I know where the gap is, and lots of people have guessed. Not many people have got it right, and you really can't tell.
I'm assuming it's all perfect. I'm not even thinking about it now.
Yeah, and like, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know.
Yeah. If
you know, and it's very like, I know.
There's just known knowns or unknown knowns.
They're known knowns. But it's amazing the hammering tape can take.
Yeah.
It was hammered.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's still a beautiful piece of music that doesn't sound like it's had a car crash.
And it's just meant to be, isn't it?
Absolutely. And this guy said on an Instagram comment, he went, those molecules doing their thing, and I was like, Great name for a track. So it's called Molecules.
There you are. Wonderful.
You know.
There you are. Wonderful. That's great. Good story. Good name.
Yeah, and that
And your career as an analog influencer has been launched.
has been launched. This is where I'm going now. My friend says, "Oh, you just need more spectacular disasters with amazing recoveries."
Yeah, well,
that's clearly what the internet
done,
wants.
Yeah.
You know, but I think from now on, I am, you know, when I'm mixing, you know, before I start mixing, I'm going to make a backup reel.
Oh, okay.
Like, I've got more than one tape machine, you know, for a reason, you know, because I'm obsessed. But that is the same tape machine as that.
So you can just literally...
You make a backup reel. And that's that Keith Grant story about the kid. He was doing exactly that. He was making a backup reel from, you know, at 6 a.m, from a session the night before. And he was in different rooms, and the tape, same tape machine actually, they're notorious for
doing it.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, I'll make a backup reel, and then once I'm finished mixing, I'll just tape over it.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, who has the money to, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. You're not sat, you know, in Olympic Studios in Barnes, are you, with EMI paying for your...
Absolutely
paying for your reels, you know.
Yeah, so it's, but yeah, I think I'm going to do that next time, because that was quite an experience, especially the idea of like, because it's about capturing these moments, isn't it? You know, I'd love, you know, the process, especially like reverse arranging. I kind of see myself as a reverse arranger a lot of the time. It's like we do a piece of music, and it's like I can hear, you know, these, oh, wouldn't it be great if something did this here? But it's not necessarily something I hear when I'm like, all right, here's this bass line, here's this melody idea. I'm not kind of like, but when I hear the music, I'm kind of like, oh,
now we can,
we could put this here or that there.
I mean, that's pretty standard stuff, isn't it? In terms of writing, isn't it? It's like,
well, it
you know,
amazes
we
me
sit and listen to
who-
stuff we've recorded, and then we think, okay, well, is it good?
Yeah.
Does it need more?
But that's what
Does it need
amazes
less?
me about writers, you know, because, again, going off on a bit of a tangent here, Steve said a really interesting thing about his own arranging. He says if he has his own arrangement out in front of him, he can hear it. He can look at it and just hear
That's crazy.
everything.
Yeah.
If he has somebody else's arrangement in front of him, not as much.
Yeah, well, I mean...
You know, it doesn't trigger the same synapses or whatever neurons to kind of go, oh, I know that's sound. You know?
Well, I guess if you've worked on an arrangement, you've sat and thought about it, haven't you? You've worked through that kind of mental process, and the sounds are in your head of all the melodies and stuff. So I guess you can visualise through sound or whatever, how we would call it. But you know,
because
it's
I'm
interesting,
really
isn't it? I mean,
interested.
it's a fascinating insight into people that do things that you can't do. Do you know what I mean? And it's always really interesting as a musician to be around people that do crazy things that you look mystical to. I'm sure we all can all individually do different things to each other. So we've all got our superpowers, haven't we? But it's always lovely.
I can play a bass line, the same bass line, over and over and over for 10 minutes with no problem.
There you are.
It's my superpower.
Rock solid.
But that thing of losing that reel is like, I'll say, and I love capturing moments. That's one of the, like, really, I don't know why it's different to capturing it on a computer, but there's something about, you know, it's like we've got not multiple chances to do something. And it's like you've got that moment and you've
Well, it's a
you've
physical
caught that
thing as well,
moment.
isn't it? It's the fact that you're physically repairing the tape with your hands.
Yeah.
You know, if you took a hard drive to a place and they recovered your data on a hard drive and handed you back another hard drive, it's not you don't get the same pleasure, do you, than actually sitting there and ironing out the tape. And I mean, you know, where there's a tactile beauty to that. You know, where you can see what the problem is. You can see the music. The music's represented in a physical tape.
Yeah.
It's not just.
I think, do you know what? There is something interesting in that, because I cut a record recently. You know, my mate's got like a cutting lathe to do like short order runs of vinyl. And I was cutting a record for a Work Money Death thing that was a free giveaway, you know, because we have, you know, we always try and keep, that's why we did a week here. I was like trying to create more content that we can repurpose or use to promote release or whatever. And as I cut the record, all of a sudden, this piece of music had value. You know, where beforehand it was a free giveaway. And I was just like, oh, just give it away. It's only a demo. It's only, you know, a little performance that we've captured or something. It's not one of our real things. But the minute I turned it into a physical thing, I was like, oh shit, this
It's
has
one of your
value.
babies, isn't it? All of a sudden, it's, you know.
And I'm wondering how much that impacts people making music today. Like, I think about that a lot, you know, because
they don't get that bit at the end of the process where they hold something in their hand.
Yeah, but maybe they internally devalue what they're doing, you know, because nobody pays for any, you know.
Yeah, well, I think there's a certain element of that. I mean, I know, you know, like from my own experience, my own son and my daughter, they make music, and I remember when they were quite young, it was very hard to convince them that it had value. And it's like, well, you know, we should get it up on a streaming site, or, you know, get something to show that you know, like, oh, no one's going to buy it. So it doesn't matter. I'll just give it to my friends. They can just listen to it and that'll be it. But I'm sure if they actually had physically made like a 7-inch single or a vinyl, they would be so proud of it.
Yeah.
Because that's the bit of the process that they're disconnected from.
Yeah.
When everything's so available and it doesn't exist in your hand. It's just there online somewhere. You know, there's no connection to it. You know, physically. I think it's as human beings. I think we're learning. We're still learning about our technology around us, and the newness of the technology that we're developing is still very, very new. And you can see there's a definite reaction to sort of wanting to hold the record in your hands and read the artwork and have a collection. Collect it. It's a demonstration that you think it's special. You know, and so people collect, and they're proud of their collections. Yeah. I think as human beings, we've always done that. Everyone's had collections of whatever, you know, whether it's, you know, badges or, you know, sports cars or whatever they can afford. You know, it's that kind of, people have always done that. We've always had a little demonstration of your personality and your desire and your uniqueness through what you collect or whatever. And I think we can't just sort of go, oh yeah, well I collect rare vinyls on my phone and I just listen to, you know, you can't pretend that's as interesting, because it isn't to us. No. And I think we've got to do. I don't know where it's going with this right now, but I think there's a definite. You can see it, and we both put out a lot of vinyl, and we enjoy vinyl, buying vinyl, listening to vinyl, because we probably grew up with it. It was far more normal. But you know, is that there is a beauty to that, an enjoyment of that's really good fun. You know, that you can't help thinking, well, people are missing out a little bit, having a collection or finding something that's rare, not just online and listen to it once, but actually having a physical copy. And you know, and you've got your little collection at home. It's you, it's your personality, it's your life, it's the soundtracks to your life. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And it's a very sweet thing. I think that it'd be a shame to lose. Yeah. For the sake of convenience. Yeah. Well, this definitely isn't convenient, is it? No, tape and vinyl is not. Yeah, but I mean that's no bad thing either. You know. No, I like endeavouring. It means things mean more to you. You achieve more when you work towards something than like capturing those moments. Yeah. When you get that one track, because suddenly that track and that album to you meant a lot more to you because you had to physically rescue it. Like it was in danger or something. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because almost an emotional response. I know, because I did think to myself, well, that's the album fucked then, isn't it? Like, I know that was a bit dramatic, but I was kind of like, well, how am I going to rescue this tune? I'm now one tune down, which means a 6-track album instead of a 7-track album. Yeah. And the balance is gone. Yeah, and it's still all the effort and the like all the things we've just spoken about. All the recording session, and then separating it out, and all the overdubs and all that beauty and love it has suddenly gone in that instant. To that point, to just that one moment of sort of like, you and idiot. That noise, you know. But it's such a serenely beautiful track. It really is. It's really. I'm so glad that it got. Well, it's meant to be, wasn't it? And it's life's funny, isn't it, for making you appreciate things in a funny way. Sometimes that sort of fear of losing something makes you appreciate things a lot more in many things in life. Absolutely. You know, whether it's your health or love or family or things or, or treasured something or other, it's like, it's a very human, very normal emotion, isn't it? Of kind of like, oh, I nearly lost it, so it means a lot more to me. You see things clearly. You saw that track as being more important than anything in the world.
I really did. I really did. So glad we rescued it. So glad we did it.
Yeah.
Turned out to be such a great album. I can't wait for the world to hear. I weirdly haven't shared it with too many people.
Good.
You know, it's like
Good.
I've kind of kept it. I think Michaela's really the only one. And Steve, you know, who's heard bits, and yourself.
Yeah. Susanna's had a few off the phone, a few things that I've played over, you know. That's great. I'm really curious to know if everybody else will feel the same way as us.
I know, right?
And I know you can never tell, and you should never second guess it anyway. We should just be proud of it, and what it does, you know.
Yeah,
But
like I totally agree with this one. It's like I don't really like. Obviously, as a business, I should care, you know. But I'm kind of like, no, we've done that. It sounds amazing, and it's been a big step. This one, as I say, I've realised quite a few things from doing this one. You know, about the possibilities and where it can go next. And
well, it's another sound for the label with you, isn't it? It's yet another avenue of exploration for you. You know what I mean? Another kind of, you know, another chance to do another one. You know, which is all we ever want to do.
Absolutely.
Do another Lewis
give us
album.
a chance to do another one.
You know, and that's all I ever want to do is just make the next record. You know, I think. You know, because you can't guarantee anything's going to be a success, and you can't guarantee that there's going to be money and anything behind any of this. And so you've got to literally enjoy the process. The process has got to be your reward, and whatever comes after that is a bonus. And I think that's a safe emotional space to occupy in terms of not overthinking things like we shouldn't worry too much about what we think it's going to do, because if it doesn't, then we'll be disappointed. And really, there's no reason to be disappointed with it, because it is a really important album, you know, really enjoyable. And I think in our little story of life and our little personal discographies, people always ask you, what was your favourite album? What albums of yours did you, you know? And there are, you know, for me, it's one of those moments, you know. I did an album, beyond my own albums, I did an album once with Eddie Roberts called Eddie Roberts and the Fire Eaters Burn, you know. And that had a similar feeling of like just being just a moment in time when we were all on the same page, and we wrote some lovely music, and the studio session was really enjoyable, and it sounded lovely, the record, and that kind of like, you know, that's it. That's wanting to reproduce that feeling of like, yeah, I'm really, really proud of this, you know, really super kind of, you know, this is it. This is why you do it. You can't always say that. You can't always achieve that. But when you do, it's like, yeah, okay. And the rest doesn't matter. It's all kind of wallpaper, isn't it? It's like what people think, you know. So it's cool. I think we've done it. I think we've, you know, and should do another one immediately.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Send it there. Well done, Chip. That was really good.